Jen. How
Hi.
are you? So good to
Hi.
see you.
So nice to see you too. You look beautiful.
Thank
Perfect.
you, as well as you. I
Thank
want to talk
you.
about what is coming up because honestly, I think it's incredible. I got the chance to watch it, and I want to know what is it like to bring your own story to the screen again, and what does this series represent for you today?
Series represents something of an accomplishment in my own healing because I was so proud to be a part of it. And I was able to do it almost as if it was somebody else's story, but it was mine. And I knew it all along. But to be in the writer's room and to be a part of the producing of making sure that it was told correctly and in context made a huge impact on me. I felt so empowered, so happy to have my whole story, at least during those years, out there. It was very important for me to do a series because in a documentary, you only have 90 minutes and you
Right.
can't tell a 9-year story in 90 minutes.
Because probably after the documentary Abduction in Plain Sight, we thought that everything was said, but obviously there was more things to tell, right? Um,
Absolutely.
what are the things that you have left to tell in this series that we didn't get to see in the documentary?
Really, the main thing is that this kind of predator works on the entire family. So he worked on becoming best friends with my dad and, having this little emotional, fantasy with my mom and how that happens to regular good people, people that go to church, people that are trying to live a good life. And somebody comes in and knows how to manipulate their feelings and to make them their best friend and to give their trust and their love to this man, his wife, his children. My parents loved this family, and we all did. And so to tell that story was so important so people could understand, oh, this could happen to me. That's
Right.
why it was so important to me for the context around how a master manipulator and predator operates, how they gain trust and love first, and then when you're least expecting it, when you would never believe it, they're abusing your child, the coach, the school teacher, the priest. It's that part of the story that I don't feel like people understood, and now they do because the series really tells it, and it's so compelling. There's so much to tell in my story.
Definitely.
And more to tell in the aftermath of my story. So I'm going to do that next.
And I was wondering, how did you manage to somehow like live your story over and over again without hurting yourself so much?
Very interesting. There's something that happens in your healing process when you've had a really good, several really good therapists, and you've done work called, here we call it EMDR, and you've done other healing modalities with your central nervous system and your neurological systems, your brain. And when you've gone through and read as many books and done as many workshops and workbooks and had therapists and had these various healing modalities that we know scientifically help survivors, just like combat survivors of war, they have similar therapies. We went through war as little kids or as teenagers in a different way, and we know that these things help us heal. Once I had gone through those things, I was ready to tell my story almost as like one person removed. So it wasn't triggering to me anymore. I had told it enough. I had dealt with my triggers. I dealt with my fears enough that I was able to literally I've told my story thousands of times, and I don't get triggered and I don't get sad. Sometimes I get angry because I'm so mad when a grown man can do this to a little kid, to an innocent little girl or little boy. And it happens over and over and over again. And I think because I'm such an advocate for change, for people to tell their stories so they can begin to heal, so that they can prevent the cycle from being passed on to the next generation, and that we can prevent it from happening as we hear people's stories, as we believe victims. I'm so passionate about that I've gone way beyond it affecting me in my life. I'm the hope. You can heal and you can help others by telling your story.
So brave, and at the same time, like so inspiring for so many people around the world.
I don't want it to be something like, oh, if you were abused, then you're not the right person to hire for this job, or I want it to change. I want us to talk about abuse and what happens to children, tweens and teens and young adults all the time. 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 4 boys. That's a terrible number. That's worse than cancer. I want you to talk about this like you talk about cancer. Would you just shove cancer down and not do anything about it? Not go to the doctor? Not take care of it? No, that's what this is. It's a cancer that happened to you. It wasn't your fault. Believe the victims and let's get something done to prevent it and to heal, help people heal so it can be prevented in future generations. It's just a huge passion.
It's really impressive the way you talk, how much it healed yourself.
Yes, absolutely it did. It helped me heal. Some people, that may not be as true. They might only need one person to tell that believes them, that doesn't criticize them, that doesn't say, well, were you drinking? What were you wearing? Don't do that. It doesn't matter. The person to blame is the predator.
Is it true that you actually sent letters to the cast before starting the filming? And how did you manage not to interfere with their characters, even though you were a producer as well?
You know, it was so interesting because all of them at one point or another mentioned that to me and how helpful it was for me to and just how kind. But mostly it was, I wanted to give them permission to embody these characters in their own way, because I believe in their artistic genius. And I told them that it's so important that you don't worry about doing it right. And yet when they finally were there and did it, you know, and doing the filming and seeing they were so similar to my own mother and father and myself and the bad guy. And they did such a good job. And I said, make it your own and just know that telling my story is such a privilege and an honor for me to have you helping me. And that's really what the letters were for.
And Jan, did you ever forgive him? Does his death probably like give you more peace of mind, state of mind somehow? Or
yes. And I think that's an important piece of what I believe helped me in my healing. I believe that letting go or forgiving, some people, you know, in their religious context of forgiveness think, oh, well, that means he got a free pass. I'm like, no, he will deal with God. There will be a judgment day. You know, he will still have to pay the price for what he did, but it doesn't help me to hang on to what he did to me. It only puts me in a prison box. You know, I believed in letting him go. As far as letting go of what he did to me and forgiving him, meaning it doesn't mean he shouldn't have gone to jail. He should have. That there are consequences for our actions and we need to hold people accountable. In fact, that's the biggest problem, is that most predators, most sexual offenders never serve their time. They never get help. Maybe there's help for them too, but they need to be taken out of society because they don't stop. They go on to the next child, the next teenager, the next young adult, into a bad marriage, and violence and emotional terror follow. So they have to be put behind bars, and then maybe they can be given some help too to change.
I know that we have to wrap it up, but this is the last question that I want to ask you. How did you keep the family together after so much pain? Because there's many people that would say, how did you forgive your parents? But at the same time, they were also victims and they were manipulated by this person.
100%. You hit the nail on the head. They were victims also. He groomed them just like most victims. He built trust. The grooming process, you build trust and that you show love. He did all the things right, but for a nefarious, for a terrible end result. And my parents never saw it coming. My parents were genuinely loving. They were genuinely people you could trust. They were real. His was all fake. And so you can't blame, again, you don't blame people who didn't know. My parents didn't know. It was easy for me to forgive them because they always stood by my side and they always believed me and they took responsibility. Like, why didn't we see it? Or we didn't know, but we're so sorry. We believe you. How can we help? My parents didn't lose their minds and be like, don't talk about it. My mom and dad were like, tell us whatever you need us to know and tell us how we can help and what we can do. And we're so sorry. They were so wonderful and helped with my healing process because they'd always given me unconditional love, and they continued to do that. So when you believe your child, that's unconditional love. You don't blame them. You believe them, and then you ask, how can I help? And that's why it was easy to forgive my mom and dad, because I knew they were victims too. The predator's the one you blame. That's the one.
Definitely. Thank you, Jen, for this time. Thank you for opening your heart with us, and your story. It's like really moving, and I'm sure it's gonna inspire a lot of people around the world, and I'm sure they're gonna really get a lesson watching A Friend of the Family.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. You're so beautiful. Thank you, inside and out.
You too. Thank you, Jen. Bye.